In today's brief video, I want to address anyone in our addiction mindset community who feels like it's impossible to quit smoking weed no matter how hard they're trying. Because I know what that's like when you're struggling with addiction, and there's a very simple explanation for that. And understanding why it feels that way usually makes it easier to get out of that mindset. If you're new to the channel, my name's Dr. Frank. I'm the founder of Addiction Mindset recovery coaching programs, which are dedicated to helping people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to check out the pinned comment or the video description to learn more about our paid and free addiction recovery coaching resources. If you've been stuck in the cycle of weed addiction for, let's say, many months or many years of your life or even decades, and you've tried to quit 1,000 times but you have failed each of those times, there's a very simple explanation as to why that is. And it's not because you're broken, it's not because you're weak-willed, it's not because you don't have any willpower, it's none of those things. When you suffer from an addiction for a prolonged period of time, eventually your brain enters a state of dopamine deficit. Now, dopamine is the neurotransmitter in our brain that is responsible for motivation and decision making and the repetition of a behavior over and over and over again. The areas of our brain that are also impacted by addiction are our frontal lobe or our frontal cortex, which has to do with rational decision making and delayed gratification and all of those other positive attributes that we think about in people who are disciplined. When you abuse a drug, you're entering the quitting process in a state of dopamine deficit to begin with, and then when you get rid of the drug, that dopamine depletes a little bit more even. So a lot of people will think that they're going to be like super motivated to quit, and they're waiting for that day where they're feeling like, oh, okay, this is it, I'm going to take on quitting, this is going to be the perfect time. And that time never comes because physiologically your brain isn't in a state of mind to achieve that level of thinking. Because again, when we have prolonged addiction, our brain enters a state of dopamine deficit, and then when we quit the drug, we lose even more dopamine, which is the thing that's responsible for our motivation and our drive to complete an action, to see an action through. Okay, so you're missing the neurotransmitter that recognizes the reward at the end of the day for this quitting process. You're not missing it, but it's severely depleted. On top of that, chances are there has been some negative impact, whether it's weed, alcohol, nicotine, it doesn't matter what it is, to that frontal cortex, frontal lobe, the area of the brain that's responsible for rational decision making and delayed gratification. So combine dopamine deficit with frontal cortex dysfunction or dysregulation. And why would we have the expectation that we're going to be in a place where it's like, okay, this is going to be an easy task to take on, this is going to be something that I'm just going to jump right into? Now, what happens though, I think, is people watch other videos or they read the comments on my channel, the amazing comments of people who have successfully quit. And it's motivating, it's exciting, that's what this community is all about. Or you hear a story like mine, someone who's successfully quit, and you get all ramped up about it. And then you try and quit, you feel terrible because of those physiological changes in the brain. And then you start to say, why aren't I motivated? Why don't I have the willpower to do this? Why aren't I strong enough to do what the people in those comments did? Why can't I accomplish these things? And then addiction, through the manipulative thing that addiction is, puts you into this category of I. And it's a space where you start to believe, possibly, I'm not like projecting on you, but possibly, like that you're unique. My situation with this drug is totally different than anyone else's. No one is as weak-willed or as demotivated or amotivated without motivation as I am. Therefore, quitting for me isn't possible in the same way that it was possible for these other people, right? So, oh, Dr. Frank must have been really motivated to quit. The people in the comments must have been really motivated. They must have had a better starting point to quitting than I did. And what I'm trying to explain in this video, and it's a hard concept to explain, is When we go through drug addiction, anyone that's been through drug addiction to weed, nicotine, alcohol, severe caffeine or stimulant addiction, porn addiction, whatever, the pills, our starting point is a mind that's kind of broken. I don't want to say broken, but a mind that's damaged. And the sobriety process is all about healing and repairing that mind, that mindset, that frontal cortex, those dopamine levels, that dopamine deficit. But for many of us, economically, our situations might look different. Socially, our situations might look different. The resources we have access to might look different. Granted, I'm trying to change the gap on that one with all our free content on this channel for people. But our brain and the damage that our brain has sustained largely looks the same among each of us. So our starting point, from me to you and you to the next person in the comments, it's all pretty similar. And it makes sense once you understand what's happening in the brain, why it's so challenging in some cases for some people. Because we're not starting at energy levels that are 100. We're not starting at brain function that's 100 out of 100. We're maybe at like, I don't know, 25% of where we need to be functioning. We're missing the very thing that gives us motivation, that gives us the ability to repeat a behavior over and over again. We're missing the very part of our brain that's been damaged, that's responsible for decision making and delayed gratification and patience and all of that stuff. So it makes sense that it's so difficult for you. And what I'm trying to say is, you're not alone. You're not unique in this struggle. Almost every single person, myself included, that you see in the comments that's been successful in quitting, I promise has been in your shoes or in a very similar situation that you are in. I guarantee it, because I've talked to thousands of people personally, and everyone has such similar starting points. It's pretty unbelievable. Actually, we have a free community, the Kick It accountability or coaching community. I forgot what we called it. It's in the link in the bio or the video description. You can join that for free and interact with people who are feeling the exact same way you are. And it's amazing to realize that you're not alone. That in of itself is worth $1 million. It's invaluable. That's why we made it free. That's not totally true, but we did want to grow the group. So I hope this video helps you out. I hope it puts some things in perspective. Now, to end on a positive note, the brain does heal. If you look at the work of Dr. Daniel Amen or Amen, A-M-E-N of AMEN Clinics, he's the guy that's known for doing the brain scans on people. And typically within about a year, most people have healed their brain. Now, they did things, right? They exercised, they took supplements, they ate healthy, they meditated, they did stuff. They worked hard at it. Like, I'm not saying it just happens because you quit the drug. Like, you actually have to work to heal. The same way if I broke my leg and I didn't walk for a period of a few months, I would have to go to like physical therapy. I'd have to go to rehab to learn how to use my leg again. It requires work, it requires effort. And by no means is sobriety any different, but healing and recovery, not someone who's in recovery, being fully recovered, done with the addiction, healing your brain. In a majority of cases, it's a very realistic possibility. And I'd like to say it's a possibility for everyone and anyone who puts in the right amount of effort and work towards it. I hope this video helps you out. If you are struggling, I hope it provides some insight and clarity as to why you might be. Because once you understand how this works, once you understand how addiction is manipulating this, quitting can become so much easier. And that's what we're all about on this channel. That's what we're all about in our one-on-one coaching programs. And that's what we're all about in all of our free PDFs that we offer people in the links in the video description and the link in the pinned comment. So if you need more help, check out those resources. They're there for you guys, okay? Or just watch any of our $800 videos on this channel that I've posted, including the one that I pinned right here or here, whichever way is on the screen. Until next time.